everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gita Membri and I have been asked countless times to make an impact analysis video about alcohol. And that is a little bit difficult because alcohol is a chemical, it's a chemical process. It's what happens when we ferment sugar. Plainly, very simply put. But what we can do is that we can zoom in on specific products and specific industries, and that is what we're doing today. We are going to talk about the environmental impact of wine. So I'm going to take you guys through the supply chain of wine production. We're going to talk about some of the major components when it comes to environmental impact, but I don't want to just focus on what's being done poorly. So I am here to provide solutions. We're going to go on a field trip and talk to some actual wine producers in a second. I myself am a big wine enthusiast. I love drinking wine, learning about wine. So looking into the environmental impact of the things that I actually like, it's always nerve-wracking, but what, scrutinizing and criticizing the products that we enjoy is really important. So we know how to do better. Okay, let's talk about how wine affects the planet. Wine is an ancient practice. It has been part of human history for thousands of years. From 7000 BC, where ancient settlers in China made fermented beverages from rice and honey, to evidence of wine production 4000 BC in Armenia and Iran. In Egypt, Assyria, and Mesopotamia, wine was transported in goat skins in 16 BC. And in ancient Greece and Rome, wine was a big part of cultural life. And during mid-18th century, wine production and culture advanced in Europe. Can you guess why? An advancement primarily due to colonization, as well as some expanding scientific knowledge regarding how oxygen impacts wine production. So we learned more stuff scientifically, but we also exploited a lot of people in the process. Today, the vast majority of modern wine production has been optimized by mechanical harvesting, standardized wine ratings, and the introduction of global supply chains. So in order to understand this industry, why not just talk to someone who works in it? Trying to get a better overview of the wine industry is really difficult when you live in a country that has very, very little wine production. So I went to France. Sustainable production is at this point by no means a default. So I found a wine producer that is actually going the extra steps to make sure that its wine is as eco-conscious as possible. This is the domain of Uwe. And when I asked them if I could come for a visit, they said yes. This is Thomas, and he's the co-founder of Uwe, and he's agreed to answer some of my questions about what sets them apart from conventional winemaking to get a better understanding of the challenges in the industry.
At Uwe, we are making our best for regenerative agriculture, for security around the bottles, cut the carbon footprint. We do our best for a new model of company with trust, transparency on wages and many more things. Motivate all the ecosystem around us to make change happen all together.
There's really no way around the fact that wine production has a substantial environmental footprint. From greenhouse gas emissions to pesticide use, monocultures, as well as cooling and storage facilities, and heavy glass packaging. When we think about the environmental footprint of wine, the focus often goes to the vineyards, the grape growing, the fermentation, the aging. But this study highlights that the packaging, the famous glass bottle, is actually one of the main contributors to wine's environmental impact. The production of the glass bottle itself can actually account for up to 70% of the overall impact of the wine product. If you have been on this channel for a while, you know that one of my very first impact analysis videos was about glass production. This is definitely not inherently a sustainable practice, and there are tons of things that can be better here. When it comes to glass, it's heavy to transport and it's fragile, which makes transportation more environmentally impactful. And the production of the glass itself also requires intensive temperatures, which also then drives up the impact. If you want more details about glass production overall, I will link the video down below. One of the biggest game changers when it comes to bringing down the impact of wine, one of the best things that we can do is phase out single-use, one-way glass bottles that are then used once, recycled, whatever. When you recycle glass, you sort of break it down and turn it back into new material, but that process has a much bigger environmental impact than simply washing a fully intact glass bottle and refilling it again. So circular refill systems where we reuse the glass bottles in their entirety instead of breaking them down for recycling is by far the best option. Now, if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that it's very rarely an all or nothing thing. There are tons of small things that manufacturers and brands can do to tweak and alter the impact of that product. Some of them pretty major, like implementing a return system on bottles. And some of them are smaller, but over time and when we scale it up, it ends up having quite a massive impact. Like the foil and the neck of the bottle of this very generic wine. Hear me out. This is Claire, and she also works at OE. And other than having just the absolute best vibe about her, she educated me on some of the wine bottle details that, when added together, really matters.
Claire, I look after export at OE. It used to be mandatory to have a foil here that was proving that you had paid your duty on the bottles. The law has changed, so this is not mandatory anymore. And for us, that was a big opportunity to make our bottle even more environmental friendly, because that part, this is not recyclable. This is made of a mix of aluminium, plastic, a lot of different things, which makes it completely non-recyclable. I feel ashamed to show that we still have some in one. So as soon as we were aware that it was not mandatory anymore by custom, we decided to take it off. This is a very small gesture.
How much of an impact would it have if every wine company got rid of the foil?
Up to 75,000 tons of waste if everyone was taking this off. Woo!
And another thing, every time we intensively farm land to make just one thing, we create a monoculture. And monocultures are notoriously bad for biodiversity. And that also goes for vineyards. I went out into one of OA's fields to talk to François Xavier, and he is extremely passionate about trying to increase biodiversity and find the monoculture mindset.
When you have vineyards, you have only vineyards, so there is no biodiversity. For that reason, it's not good for the soil. So we put in between the lines different plants where we implement other plants to help the soil to be more alive. And by OA, we are producing organic, not only organic, but regenerative wines.
The way François Xavier, the other co-founder of OE, explains it, there are three types of wines. There's chemical wine, which is wine made with pesticides. Then there is organic wine, and then there's regenerative wine. And according to François Xavier, there's too much focus on just organic wine, but we have to be even more ambitious than that. Every 4 lines, the soil is tilled and moved over, and the plan is to put rye and radishes here because it adds as natural fertilizers and will make the plants more resistant against harsh weather, changing weather, climate change.
And
right?
Next year it will be this lane that we will turn.
So it will change.
The year after this one. So every 4 years, one lane is moved, and during 3 years there is no change except the radish that we put in or the rye that we put in. Organic waste of the restaurant where we are delivering the wine. We take from them their organic waste. We produce compost, organic compost, and we put it here back on the soil. In France, there is approx 20%, 18 to 20% that is without chemical products. For the industry of wine, the most important thing is to stop using chemical products to put on the soil.
So let's talk about pesticides, what François Xavier is calling chemical wine. It's wine made with pesticides and insecticides. Although wine takes up just 4% of agricultural space in France, it accounts for more than 20% of its pesticide use. One recent study by Pan-Europe finds striking evidence of contamination in European wines, not only classic pesticide residues, but also forever chemicals. And here's where it gets really interesting. Wine produced before 1988 has shown no detectable TFA, which is a forever chemical. In contrast, wine from more recent years, post-2010, has revealed TFA in all tested bottles. In 94% of conventionally produced wines, up to 8 different pesticide residues were found. Across all the bottles in the study, 18 different pesticide residues were found, including 2 forever chemicals. Now, this is a small study, but it does provide some interesting information. They tested 5 organic bottles and found that 4 out of 5 had no detectable pesticide residues, but all of them still contained forever chemicals. Studies now show that European wines contain rising levels of forever chemicals, specifically TFA. These substances don't break down, they build up in soil and in groundwater, which means that everything that we make from that soil eventually also contains forever chemicals. Pesticide residues are harming all soil life, like insects and water systems, and wine with high TFA levels often contain more pesticides residue as well. The fertilizers and pesticides that are sprayed on agricultural fields or in vineyards they don't just stay there. They move through our ecosystems, which means that organic wine isn't necessarily free from this contamination. What we are more so investing in when we support farmers that produce things organically or regeneratively is the quality of products in the future. I know what I and we as consumers have to do in order to be more sustainable and consume wine more sustainably. But I do wonder what the people in the wine industry think the future looks like.
The future of wine in France is complex. I think it's a mix with traditions and new ways of working, what we explore at OE, circularity, regeneration. Only being organic is not enough. We can and we have to be far more than organic, so it's agroforestry, plants, trees, etc. Mixing the production, not only being a producer of wine, respectful of a territory, of the biodiversity on this territory.
I think that there will be a clear split in two kinds of production. Some that will stay industrials and some more craft wines. I think that at the end, the people that will take care of the soil will win.
Now I know what you're thinking. Guita Marie, wine isn't necessary for survival. So surely the most sustainable thing would be to avoid it altogether. And that is that kind of mentality that got us uncooked and unseasoned tofu as a vegan alternative in restaurants. Wines are in many cases classified as a high impact product because there is a lot of impact related to production, packaging, transportation, storage, and what doesn't happen to the packaging material. But does it mean that we can't ever enjoy a good glass of wine? No, I would honestly go as far as to say that there's not a single thing that you can't enjoy once in a while. But when we look at the broader picture and general consumer habits and patterns, we're not just enjoying it once in a while. We're not just holding out for good quality. This is something that happens across all consumer categories. We like more stuff rather than good stuff. And that is where we have the problem.
We don't have to stop consuming wine, but we have to consume less, but better wine. And when I mean better, it's not better in terms of quality, something very special, very technical, but a better wine on the way it's produced.
Should we stop drinking wine to be sustainable? I think the true value of wine is not only the bottle, but the moment created by the bottle. The wine industry can be a regenerative industry. So drinking wine can be a good solution for carbon footprint, a good solution for biodiversity. We have to make it possible. So drinking wine and responsible wines can make change happen also.
So what can we as consumers actually do to be more mindful with the way we purchase and consume wine? Here are a few ideas. For wineries that publish sustainability report or is in any way transparent about what they're trying to do to be more sustainable. Prioritize organic wine. Support wineries that use regenerative farming practices or integrated pest management. You can also choose wines that are bottled close to where you live to relieve some of those transport emissions. Now, obviously supporting local small businesses is always a good idea, but local doesn't necessarily always mean low impact. So make sure that you're still critical towards what kind of business practices that your local wineries are using. Return bottles into reuse systems wherever that is possible. You can also choose a lighter wine bottle or alternative packaging to relieve some of that impact. Honestly, it almost kind of hurts that I'm recommending boxed wines or cans. But when we look at packaging impact, that tends to have a CO2 benefit. Unfortunately, personally, I have a really hard time with boxed wine. It's just not my jam. So instead, what I would do is that I would choose companies that use refill options, that recycle their bottles or reintroduce them into their supply chains. Yes, also recommend visiting a vineyard to understand how this wine is made and to get a better grip and idea of the effort and impact it takes to actually produce the wine. That way, we're much less likely to waste it or to take it for granted, which means that we will end up becoming consumers that favor quality over quantity, much rather consuming less of something that's good rather than consuming a lot of something that is subpar. Quality over quantity. And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what you think and let me know what other kinds of materials or products you want to see an impact analysis video about. Thank you so much to OE for working with me on this video and letting me come and check out their production. Have an amazing day and I will see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye.